What if Oscar found the Omnitrix? Chapter 2. A Call to Action. In a dark red and purple land, a large paw emerged from within a black slime, and then a beowulf gradually crawled out. Around the beowulf were several more pools with many beowulfs emerging. In a castle sitting high on a ridge, Mercury, Black and Emerald Sestrai were watching the beowulfs from inside the castle. Emerald had her hand to her mouth while Mercury was slightly disgusted. Someone wearing a glove snapped their fingers. The hand belonged to Cinder 4, the person behind the fall of beacon and cutting veil from the cross-continental transmit system. Mercury and Emerald moved away from the window to Cinder's side. She was sitting at a large table with several other people also sitting around the table. Cinder sat quietly, while Mercury and Emerald moved to her side. Emerald nudged Mercury out of her way so that she can be directly next to Cinder. Yes, please keep your posse in check, Watts said. Mercury grunted and made a move toward Watts, but Emerald held him back. You hear that? Silence. I've half a mind to thank the little girl that bested you, Watts said. If I were you, I'd hunt her down. Find her and, well, she took your eye, didn't she? Tyrion said. Cinder only stares at Tyrion while he cackles at her. Cinder tried to speak but only managed to make quiet exhaling noises. Emerald leans in to hear her. Pathetic. Why did you even? Watts said. The sound of a heavy metal door being unlatched echoes through the room. The doors opened and everyone stands just before Salem entered. She glided alongside the table with soft footsteps before reaching the head of it. Salem stopped, facing away from them and towards several candles on a crystal display. Watts, Salem said. Watts straightened and looked towards her. Do you find such malignance necessary? Salem said, turning around and gestured for all to sit down. I apologize. I'm not particularly fond of failure, Watts said. Watts and Salem then sat. Then I see no reason for your cruelty towards young Cinder. She's become our fall maiden, destroyed Beacon Tower, and most importantly, killed Derospin. So I'm curious, to what failures are you referring? Salem asked. Well, the girl with the silver eyes, Watts said. Yes. We've dealt with their kind before. How is it a novice was able to best one of us? Hazel asked. My thoughts exactly. Even without her new power, it should have been effortless, Watts said. It is because of the maiden's power. Make no mistake, Cinder, you hold the key to our victory. But your newfound strength brings with it a crippling weakness. Which is why you will remain by my side as we continue your treatment, Salem said. Cinder was unhappy about this and lowers her head. Emerald looked at her with sympathy. Dr. Watts, you are to take Cinder's place and meet with our informant in Mistral, Salem said. Very good, Watts said. Tyrion, I want you to continue your hunt for the Spring Maiden, Salem said. Tyrion laughed manically. Gladly, Tyrion said. And Hazel, I'm sending you to the leader of the White Fang. Adam Taurus has arranged the meeting. The boy continues to prove loyal. Ensure that Sienna Khan feels the same, Salem said. As you wish, Hazel said. Cinder raised a finger which Emerald failed to notice for a moment. Oh, Emerald said. Emerald leaned in to hear Cinder. Cinder rasps into her ear telling Emerald what she wants to say. Speak, child, Salem said. She wants to know. What about the girl? Emerald asked. Watts scoffs. What about her? Seems to me that this is Cinder's problem, not ours, Watts said. Cinder slammed her fist onto the table and glared at Watts, who grins at her. That's enough, Salem said. Tyrion, Salem said, turning to him. Yes, my lady, Tyrion asked. Spring can wait. Find the girl that did this to Cinder, Salem said. Tyrion giggled elatedly and clapped. And bring her to me, Salem said. Tyrion groaned disappointedly, pouted for a second, then looks back up at Salem with an acquiescent shrug. Because of your efforts, beacon has fallen. And Haven will be next, Salem said. Everyone rose. Tyrion snickers at Cinder and points to his left eye. Eye for an eye, Tyrion said. Tyrion entered into an uncontrollable fit of manic laughter, while Cinder gritted her teeth. All of a sudden something crashed through the room. Everyone got in a defensive stance. What is this? Have the other kingdoms launched their counterattack already? Mercury asked. No, you idiot. Remember, none of the kingdoms know where this place is. Right, Emerald asked. Yes. None of the kingdoms know where we are, and only Ozpin's group know about us. And I doubt they could get the 3 kingdoms to attack so soon, Hazel said. The dust then began to clear. Watts said. What is it? What? Salem asked. This isn't a shell. It's a drop pod, and it's far more advanced than any Atolsian scientist could create, Watts said. My lady, Tyrion asked. Stay on guard. I want to know what this is, Salem said. Tyrion pouted. The pod then opened and a Bayard stepped out. A robot, Emerald questioned. Astute observation, Watts said. Emerald grunted. The Bayard then projected a waveform. I am Vilgax. And I have come for a piece of technology that has fallen into hands of a being on this backwater planet, Vilgax said. Backwater? My tech is more than backwater tech, Watts said. Compared to my technology, this planet's tech is closer to sticks and stones, Vilgax said. You are not from Remnant, are you? Salem asked. If that's the name you call this planet, then yes, Vilgax said. Cinder raised her hand and Emerald leaned in again. What is this technology? Emerald asked. It is the key to a power struggle so ancient, so vast, it is beyond your feeble comprehension, Vilgax said. And what stops us from taking this piece to technology and using it ourselves? Watts asked. Because you do not have the technology or the manpower to retrieve it. I know what your group has been up to. If you agree to help, you will have access to any piece of technology in my possession, and you will be able to keep it whether or not you retrieve it, Vilgax said. An interesting offer. But what stops you from retrieving this tech yourself? Salem asked. I am currently unable to retrieve it myself, for I am currently stuck in a blasted stasis pod while I heal, and the user has already proven he is more than a match for my droids, Vilgax said. These droids you speak of don't seem that impressive. If they were so easily defeated, Hazel said. Very well, Vilgax said. Something then came down from space and landed in the mysterious land. When the dust cleared, it showed a mechadroid. You may test the combat abilities of this mechadroid, and you may also dismantle this Bayard, Vilgax said. The Bayard then produced a communication device. Use this to contact me with your answer, Vilgax said. The transmission then ended. My lady, Tyrion said, looking at the mechadroid. Salem gestured for Tyrion to go for it. Tyrion clapped his hands and jumped through the window to fight the mechadroid. Watts? You'll have you meet out informant later, Salem said. Very well. I'm quite intrigued by this technology, Watts said. The rest of you, continue with the assignments I already set you, Salem said. Yes, the rest said. Oscar woke up in a panic again. When will I stop having those nightmares? Oscar asked. Oscar then got changed and headed downstairs. Good morning, Emma said. Morning, Oscar said, sitting down at the table. Emma then brought breakfast to that table. Oscar. I know this isn't ideal, but I'm going to need you to do the farm work without the tractor, and without me, Emma said. What? Why? That's so much work, Oscar said. I know. I know. It'll be hard on your own, but I need to help those in town. Just do what you can today, okay, Emma said. Okay. I'll do my best, Oscar said. Thank you, Emma said. After eating, Emma left for the village whilst Oscar stayed on the farm. Oscar walked to the barn and looked over the farm. He sighed. It's going to be a long day, Oscar said, hanging his head. Oscar looked at the Omnitrix. Or maybe not, Oscar said. Oscar then raised his left hand. He popped the faceplate up, selected a transformation. Oscar then slammed his right hand down on the watch. Oscar then used all 10 transformations to complete the farm work in record time. All that Oscar had left to do was looking after the animals, which was the only thing he couldn't really speed up with any of his transformations. With so much time to spare, Oscar decided to make Emma some lunch and bring it to her. Oscar had just left the house when he was a truck with a flatbed filled with scrap metal. "Aunt Em. What is this?" Oscar asked. "This is what's left of the thing that attacked the village," Emma said. "But that isn't a Grimm. Are you saying that an Atlassian robot attacked the village?" "It's not Atlassian. At least as far as we're concerned. No one knows how it works, but then again none of us are an Atlassian engineer," Emma said. "I see. But what's it doing here?" Oscar asked. "I offered to have the remains moved to our farm to get it out of the way," Emma said. "Are you sure that's safe?" Oscar asked. "Yes. We dismantled what was left of it. Now shall we have lunch?" "I'm starving," Emma said. "Actually, I already ate, and I made lunch for you." "I was about to bring it to you when you arrived back," Oscar said, presenting Emma's lunch. "Oh, thanks, but how do you have the time to do this?" Emma asked, taking her lunch. "I didn't. Just like you don't every day. With everything that's going on we need to look after each other," Oscar said. Emma smiled. "Thank you, Oscar," Emma said. "You're welcome. Now I believe there's still a town that needs your help." "Sounds like you're trying to get rid of me." "Are you hiding something?" Emma asked. "No," Oscar said. Emma laughed. "Okay," Emma said. Emma unhitched the trailer and drove back into town. Oscar then looked over the remains of the robot. I wonder if I could repair the tractor with parts from this," Oscar said. Oscar then activated the Omnitrix and transformed into a small grey frog-like creature, that was super smart, and began to go through the remains. In the village, Em continued to help with the recovery effort. She had just helped reinforce a building when she saw several knights heading into town, led by a knight in a gold mask. Hello there. Who might you be?" Emma asked. The lead knight walked forward. "I am Enoch, leader of the Forever Knights. We heard about the attack that took place in this village by a giant robot and that a crystal creature defeated it," Enoch said. "That is true. Though I'm surprised Mistral sent so much help and so soon," Emma said. "That's because we were not sent by Mistral. We are independent from Mistral and any other kingdom. We go where we are needed by the people of Remnant and will always do our best to protect the innocent till our last breath, which is why we are called the Forever Knights," Enoch said. "I see. Well, I'm sure your help will be appreciated. Thankfully everyone has been accounted for, so all that's needed is to rebuild the village," Emma said. "I see," Enoch said. Enoch then motioned for the Forever Knights to get to work. "Now, could you tell me more about this robot and crystal creature?" Back at the farm, Oscar was now transformed into a ghost-like creature. He had used the frog creature to figure out how to put the robot's parts in the tractor, and now he was using this creature to phase the parts into the tractor, so he didn't need to take it apart. Oscar had just put the last part into the tractor before he timed out. "Okay. Let's give this a try," Oscar said. Oscar then turned the key and the tractor started. "Yes," Oscar cheered. Oscar then turned the tractor off. "The tractor's back now, and now with these transformations I can easily do all the farm work," Oscar said. Oscar then realized that he had gotten quite dirty and decided to go wash up. Oscar had just washed his face and was looking in the mirror. Something seemed off about his reflection. He leaned in closer to the mirror. "Hello," Oscar said. Oscar was about to back away when... "Hello. I'm Professor Ozpin," Ozpin said. Oscar screamed and fell back, landing on the floor. "What was that?" Oscar asked. "Oscar," Emma called. Coming, Oscar said. Oscar then left the house to see his aunt and a golden masked knight. Oscar. I would like for you to meet Enoch, Emma said. Greetings, Enoch said, holding his hand out. Don't trust him, Ozpin said. Hi, Oscar said, shaking his hand. He has come here with several others to help rebuild the village. I thought you should meet them before you go into town wondering where all the knights came from, Emma said. I see, Oscar said. There is also another reason why we are here. To investigate the robot and claims of a crystal creature. Do you know anything about that, Enoch asked. Only what my aunt told me, Oscar said. I see. Have you seen any odd creatures? Ones that you do not recognize, Enoch asked. Nope. Can't say I have, Oscar said. Very well. Thanks for your help, Enoch said. You're welcome, Oscar said. Now back to the robot. Am I right in assuming that this is what remains of the robot, Inko asked. Yes. This is what remained of the robot after that Petro. I mean Crystal Guy destroyed it, Emma said. Enoch then had a look around the remains. Seems all that's left is the robot's armored plating and internal mechanisms. I was hoping to find some sort of data unit, Inko said. That was probably destroyed, Emma said. A shame, Enoch said. Inko then noticed something off. Haven't you been taking this thing apart? It looks like several components have been removed, Enoch said. I haven't been taking it apart. I haven't had the time. I was going to see if any parts from this thing could be used to fix our tractor, and if not, sell it as scrap and donate the lion left over to the town after the repairs, Emma said. Have you any idea what happened to the parts, young man, Enoch asked. I haven't a clue. And I've just been reminded that I need to tend back to the farm. Lots of work to be done, especially without a tractor, Oscar said. Oscar then walked off to the barn. Oscar. We have to leave, Ozpin said. Oscar just ignored the voice. Oscar, Ozpin said. Oscar continued to ignore the voice in his head. Emma and Enoch had watched Oscar go. Miss Pine. I'm sorry to say that I can't allow you to do what you planned. Who knows what this mechanical marvel has left in store. Though I am more than willing to buy these remains off you, Inko said. That works for me. Whatever gets me Leon and my tractor back up and running, Emma said. I'm glad you're so agreeable. I will be back later to remove the remains from your property. I bid you adieu, Inko said. Enoch then left Emma's farm. As soon as Enoch was out of sight, Emma's face scowled. She did not trust these Forever Knights whatsoever. Much later in the day, Oscar was in his room reading. The Forever Knights had come and taken the remains away. Emma had let Oscar end his work for the day early as a reward for his hard work and that they would soon have their tractor back. Oscar, supper's almost ready, Emma called. What are we having? Oscar asked. Doesn't matter. You're eating it, Emma yelled. I never agreed to these terms, Oscar yelled back jokingly. It's part of the living under my roof contract. Read the fine print, then come wash up, Emma yelled. Oscar closed his book and stood up. He walked towards the door when the voice from earlier sounded, causing him to pause. We have to leave, Ozpin said. Oscar continued forward. Oscar. Oscar, Ozpin said. Oscar was about to grasp the door handle but stopped. I've decided you're not real, so you might as well give up, Oscar said. I understand how you're feeling. I went through the same panic and confusion, Ozpin said. Oscar turned around and looked at an open book on the floor. He bent down and shuts it, before putting it away on a shelf and then doing the same to other books. It's not real. It's not real. It's not real, Oscar said. Oscar stood up and looked at his reflection in the window. I can assure you, you are perfectly sane, Ozpin said. I'm talking to a voice in my head, Oscar said. I didn't say you were normal. I said you were sane, Ozpin said. I already knew I wasn't normal, Oscar said, quietly. Oscar started to leave his room again. There's quite a significant difference between us, Pin said. Shut up. You think this is funny? It's not, Oscar said. We are in complete agreement on that matter, I promise you. Believe me, I wish this weren't the case. But as I've told you, our aura, our souls are combined, Ozpin said. I'm done listening to you, Oscar said. Have you ever been to Haven, Ozpin asked. I told you I'm not going, and I told you I'm done listening, Oscar said. Do you think you could describe the headmaster's office, Ozpin asked. No. Why would I know that? I've never seen, Oscar said. Try. Right now, Ozpin said. It's probably. It's, Oscar said. Oscar then began to think, and then the image of the headmaster's office entered his mind. It's autumn-colored. With a large mahogany desk. There's a small table with chairs in a corner for guests, with a tea set that I gave him, Oscar said. Oscar stopped when he referred to himself. He put his hand to his head, disconcerted. Why did I say that? Why did I know that? Why did I say that, Oscar asked. Oscar became increasingly bothered. Because I helped build that school, and the tea set was a gift to the man running it now, Ozpin said. Oscar sat on his bed and held his head. If you don't believe me, you can look it up. If I recall, your aunt has several books on Mistral downstairs. I'm certain you could find a picture in one of them, Ozpin said. That's right, I must have seen it in a picture, Oscar said. Oscar, Ozpin said. Stop talking to me, Oscar yelled. I have a grave responsibility to uphold. We both do, Ozpin said. I never agreed to anything, Oscar said. No, you didn't. And neither did I, at first. But you do have an opportunity, Ozpin said. For what, Oscar asked. Greatness, hopefully. Greatness in knowing that, when the world needed help, you were the one to reach out your hand. It won't come without hardship, without sacrifice, but I know you don't want to live the rest of your life working as a farmhand in Mistral, Ozpin said. So you just decided to read my thoughts, Oscar asked. Well. They're our thoughts, now, Ozpin said. Get out of my head, Oscar yelled. Oscar. Supper time. I better see clean hands, Emma yelled. Though I have noticed that I seem to have been having blackout. No more than 10 minutes at a time. And it's always when you play with that watch. What is it, Ozpin asked. Oscar looked to the Omnitrix. So you don't know what it is either, Oscar said. No. But I can tell that you know more about it than I do, Ozpin said. I'm not telling you anything. Go away, Oscar said. Oscar then left his room. Ozpin decided it was best to stay quiet for the time being. Meanwhile, Watts and Tyrion had both completed their testing on Vilgax's robots. Watts. What are your preliminary findings? Well, the basics are essentially the same as the AK-200S. But everything else is far more advanced. Even with the weakest droid, they would most certainly be able to defeat a squad of AK-200S. And from what I saw from Tyrion's test, those mechadroids are more than a match for my paladins, James Stolwatts said. I see. Tyrion Salem said. It was fun for a while. But it had no emotion. I couldn't get into it, Tyrion said. Of course, it had no emotion. It's a robot. What is wrong with Watts yelled. That's enough, Watts, I've heard enough. Now head out and perform your assigned tasks. I will tell our new ally of our decision, Slame said. Very well, Watts said. Watts and Tyrion then left. Salem then called Vilgax. What is your answer, Vilgax asked. You have a deal, Salem said. Back at the farm, Oscar had grabbed one of Emma's books on Mistral. He looked through it until he found the page with the picture of the headmaster's office. It was exactly like how he'd described it. Do you believe me now? Ozpin asked. This doesn't prove anything. I just remember the office from this book, Oscar said. You remember the image of the office, but not the name of the book. Or where it was, Ozpin asked. Shut up, Oscar said. Oscar. We have to leave. And I know you want to leave someday, Ozpin said. I'm not going to listen to a voice in my head. And besides, I can't leave, my aunt needs me here to work on the farm. I can't abandon her, Oscar said. So you'd rather let her die? Ozpin asked. What? Oscar asked. There are bad people who would destroy the world and kill everyone you love. We can only stop this if we leave and head to Mistral and meet up with my allies, Ozpin said. Then why don't you go in their mines? Oscar asked. That's not how it works. We must leave, for the sake of the world, Ozpin said. Oscar paused and thought of his response. Why am I thinking about going along with this? Oscar asked. Because it's the right thing to do, Ozpin said. Fine. I'll leave. But not now. There are things I need to do, Oscar said. Very well. In the meantime, why don't you tell me about his watch you found? Ozpin said. Well, first, I think it came from space, Oscar said. Excuse me, Ozpin yelled. End of chapter 2.